I'm so excited to be here and see all these people from all over the world. We've been working on this conference for a long time, and to see it come to fruition, yay. And I can't think of a better way. Oh, there's, I can get the lights out like this?
Number 4.
That's what I did.
We're learning.
I can't think of a better way to start than with Kandinsky's painting composition. Actually, it's improvisation number 3. 1 year ago, in spring 2023, I taught a full semester course on Kandinsky titled Focus on a Major Artist to 14 musicians at Juilliard. And I've chosen 3 student finals, which I've edited and excerpted, to illustrate their various ways of looking at Kandinsky. In the first part, I'm going to show the analysis of a specific painting compared with the music that inspired it. The second concerns a very young composer's inspiration and analysis of one Kandinsky painting for his musical composition. The third is a synesthetic violinist who has attempted to examine the neuroscience behind Kandinsky's synesthesia. I did have music to accompany some of this, but I didn't embed it. It's on the web, so I'm going to save it for when I finish, and if I can get on, I'll play some of it for you. Otherwise, I'll tell you the references and hope that you can be inspired enough to look it up. So, coincidentally, in London, there's an exhibit right now of the Blauer Reiter, including this painting, which I had never seen before in the original. And this is the one that my student, a cellist, Mia, examined. She said that in order to understand Kandinsky's Impression 3, we viewers must first explore his synesthesia. She pointed out that Kandinsky associated shapes, lines, and colors with the senses, especially colors with sounds. For him, color and music were tied together. He once said, "The sound of colors is so definite that it would be hard to find anyone who would express bright yellow with bass notes or dark lake with treble." And she interpreted this to show how Kandinsky had colors in his head and meant such a specific idea that he believed there was no other way to express or imagine the color. It's essential, she noted, to understand what each color he used could mean or represent in order to understand his Impression 3, 1911. The colors he primarily used were yellow, black, blue, red, orange, and white. For Kandinsky, yellow was an earthly color, linked with human energy. It can also represent warmth and excitement, and even madness for some people. Contrary to this is the color black, which he defined to mean death and unearthliness, hell or underworld. Black could also represent the idea of being immovable, extinguished, and expressing great grief. Blue, however, was used to mean peacefulness or something supernatural and profound. Different shades meant different things. The lighter the shade of blue, the more it represented calmness. Kandinsky believed that blue could eventually become white, and when it did, it meant it reached absolute tranquility. Kandinsky provided a broad definition for red, but similar to blue, he saw specific meanings for lighter shades of red. Overall, he defined red as restless, glowing, and alive in feeling. However, light red and middle red had different definitions. Light red was supposed to be a warm color, expressing joy, energy, and triumph. Medium red evoked feelings of stability and passion. Orange had 2 interpretations. It could be simply a mix of red and yellow. But on its own, orange could represent radiance, seriousness, and healthiness, which this student interpreted to mean someone full of energy and alive. Finally, white was supposed to represent possibilities and the harmony of silence. I don't know if you can see this. I can't help seeing it anymore. But when I first saw it, it looked like an abstract painting, right? There's a big black blob. There are a bunch of blobs here. The yellow, by the way, which I finally got to see in person, it's not one yellow. It's lots and lots and lots of brush strokes of different yellow with little tones of green and so on. And when you see it close up, it's just remarkable. You can really hear it. So Mia, in examining this, pointed out, which is quite known, and he said so, that the music that inspired Kandinsky to paint this was Schoenberg's piece called Three Piano Pieces of 1910, I believe. And when he was listening to this, the piece, and this is what my student observed, seem to be based on small cells of ideas that get expanded and developed. So in the music, which I can't play right now, there are sort of threes, and then they're made in threes and expanded by Kandinsky. And she says you can envision how the motives heard in the first three measures spread throughout the piece. She saw the large body of yellow as representing the audience's excitement in hearing the pieces, together with the disturbance of the new atonal sounds, following Kandinsky's concept of yellow, warmth, excitement, and possibly madness. People didn't like Schoenberg in those days. A lot of people still don't. But it's difficult music. She said the excitement, yet disturbance by the music is circulating throughout the hall. She then proceeded, brilliantly, I thought, to notice the contrast of the black piano. This is the black piano. It didn't make sense to her in the context of this painting by itself, because to Kandinsky it represented death and grief. But she points out that the pianist, barely visible in the final painting, but quite visible in the one of the preparatory sketches, or two of them. You can see the pianist here, the piano, the audience, the background, and another preparatory sketch here where we see the pianist, the piano, the audience, and he's marked which colors he wanted to have, schwarz and gelb for orange, yellow, black, and so on. But when he transposed, and I say that advisedly, the pianist from that sort of liney little guy, he made the pianist blue and white. Why? Because the pianist can understand what the audience cannot. So the pianist makes out of this black blob this beautiful music that envelops the people. Some of them love it, some of them hate it, but they can't avoid it because it's suffusing the hall. I can't play it for you right now. If we have time afterwards, I'll try. But what is intriguing is why and how Schoenberg's music may have inspired Kandinsky, who wrote to Schoenberg, "Your music is exactly what I'm trying to find in my paintings." Schoenberg's atonal music, which was against traditional ideas, rules, and sounds, was what Kandinsky wanted to produce in his artwork. Schoenberg's works inspired Kandinsky since he was also searching for something new and to expand his creative palette. In conclusion, Mia showed how the pianist in tones of blue going off into spiritual, as I said, meant, and it was lighter and lighter until it becomes white, understood how the musician understands music. And here you see the two next to each other, the primary sketch and the final, which now I hope everybody runs to London to the Tate Modern to see this and some other phenomenal paintings. This, if I have time, I will play. But this is my second painting that, let's see how we're doing. Yeah, we're doing fine. A young man, I'll call him Tyson, wrote etudes in sound colors and colored sounds. And he did this, he said, I became very connected to delicate tension, this painting, and its deconstructivist makeup, filled with color and intersecting straight lines, as if they're floating in space of the canvas. Circles and triangles dominate. They are, in the artist's opinion, two primary and the most contrasting figures. And he says the themes of this canvas, and again he's comparing it to music, to musical themes, are triangles, circles, and pure geometric lines. And these allowed my sketches, the student sketches of musical elements, to become much clearer than if there was no painting. In thinking about the conception of what I wanted this work to be, and he's talking about his music, the work had to have sharp and jagged contours to the shapes of musical lines and gestures. I wanted to apply this to orchestration as well, so that the instrumental timbre could interrupt and disconnect. He wrote that this translation of the painting was more literal than spiritual due to his immaturity. He was 18 when he wrote this piece of music, and it traveled throughout the world. And I hope I'll be able to play it, but we'll see. So I was intrigued by his so-called literal translations. He cites a three-note motif in music, echoing a triangle, stacked parallel harmonies in thirds and fifths, and violent gestures. There are sections of the music where the instruments work more in terms of groups rather than independent instruments to create the effect of a unified shape or a collection of figures that imply a larger unit of the painting or sound. The use of the orchestra in this piece functions more along the lines of an army of sound soldiers fighting for the same battle rather than the opposition. In addition to this, certain elements of the music push and pull for the dominance of texture. And he compares this to some pieces by Berman and Schoenberg, but ends by saying, in conclusion, Kandinsky's understanding of gestalt and composition allowed for my thoughts as a very young composer to be much clearer than if I did not have this source. Kandinsky's vision was my sonic reality as I heard this piece being performed all over Europe. From the manipulation of the triangular forms to the subtle variations in the hues of the painting, I understood my artistic values in a much more mature and spiritual manner. The third student that wrote was a violinist who discovered she was synesthetic. She didn't know it. What else is new? And what she said is, and listen to this, I have a type of olfactory synesthesia. Synesthesia associated with a sense of smell. It is estimated that only 6.5% of synesthetes have olfactory synesthesia. Although I've always had extremely heightened oral and olfactory senses, I did not consciously think that these senses were in constant communication with each other, until my friend pointed it out. I was rehearsing Beethoven Opus 131 string quartet with that friend in my sophomore year. In rehearsal, I asked my group members to smell the key change into G sharp minor for the sixth movement. For me, the sense of the key change was such a subtle yet pungent smell of grief. I could not put my finger on what it was I was exactly sensing, except it felt like I was smelling the harmonic shift. And smelling it like grief, she said. Before reading a research paper on the neuroscience behind synesthesia, I was not convinced that synesthesia was a scientific or unique phenomenon. And I'm speaking from the perspective of a synesthete myself. For the last 19 years, I thought that everyone with a brain and imagination could associate colors with sounds and smells, just like me. Perhaps my thoughts were too crude. However, I've found research that shows that synesthetes have different brain structure and neural activity than people without synesthesia. She continued to read both what neuroscientists wrote and what Kandinsky wrote, and found it was an awakening. She was especially struck by first Kandinsky's Blue Rider that you see here of 1903, and later by Composition 10, which was so different to her. And she was puzzled by the black background of Composition 10 that makes one wonder what the existence of the two subjects and colors means against the immovable, extinguished background. She noted that having meaning and feelings assigned to colors allows viewers to go beyond the literal visual experience and tap into the deeper layer of the spiritual world. And she added, through this class, I've learned that artists and synesthetes are all alike. We experience the same feelings and urge to find meaning beyond our mundane selves. However, our methods of expression are very different. Now, when I see a painting by Kandinsky, I feel one step closer to understanding his soul. Instead of viewing it as an abstract mess of colors, I will try to interpret, understand, and further appreciate what they have left during this time on this earth. I believe that synesthesia is a beautiful mess of sense that allows us to be closer to our own souls. And lastly, many of my students had never seen or heard of Kandinsky. Some actually said they didn't understand or disliked abstract art at the beginning, but by the end they all understood what he was creating and became converts. One student explained that she saw change as a major theme of Kandinsky's work. Another pointed out the existence of time in his painting and movement. Shapes, lines, forms, colors, Cleverian form were all examined in detail as students related them to specific music. One saw Kandinsky's themes as circles, checkerboards, and triangles, as equivalent to Wagner's leitmotifs. I'm running out of time. It's a good thing I didn't play the music. And the last thing I wanted to say, I'm skipping a bunch here, is one other student who said, I've never thought of myself as someone who might have synesthesia. I don't have strong musical reactions to images, and I do not find unwelcome pictures in my head as I listen to music. However, when I put my mind to it, I do have clear and opinionated color associations with keys, less so with notes. D major can sit with both yellow and orange, G major with green, F major with a deep red, and both E flat major and E minor with light shades of blue. In fact, the viola piece I wrote last semester, based on works of Kandinsky and Munter, often juxtaposed E flat major and C minor, with both paintings featuring these colors heavily. That was long before I had come up with any sort of color association with keys. And lastly, he showed me his key of pink purple, and he wrote a piece in this key of pink purple. So he said he definitely associates this with B flat major flirting the G flat. I think the texture in the piano part, specifically, very hard to explain without showing you recording. If I don't get one, blah, blah, blah. And lastly, he's come to realize that this is something he can continue to explore as a composer. Thank you very much. Anybody have questions?
You could steal 3 minutes because we're running 3 minutes.
Oh, okay. Let's see if we can get the music.
We have up to 3 minutes
Oh,
to try to
cool.
make it
Let's
work.
see if we can get it. So we need to go back and try his one, which will be this one. You might want to hear Tyson's work that's based on that very complex painting, where he talked about an army of sounds. Oh, I think you're not going to get it.
Is this it?
That's not, this is it, Tyson. Maybe.
Bombs are still falling on children.
That's just the ad. 2 seconds. 2 seconds. Yeah.
Play it.
Play it first. Just let it go. And then press skip.
Ukraine. I've been there, and I've seen for myself how the war is tearing little lives apart. They're hungry, they're frightened, they're desperate for safety.
There.
Here we go.
I can't turn the volume down.
Whoops, what happened?
There's a volume button, by the way.
It's, yeah.
The volume on the computer will not control the volume that comes through these speakers. I don't know what happened.
It's buffering. Just give us that.
It'll come back or it'll do something.
It should come back.
It should, it's downloading.
Well, you got a sense of it already, I think. The very violent kind of thing.
It's not paused.
You can see the little circle going in a second.
Musical files, so we're going to have to do it again.
Yeah, I think we're not.
Okay, we are not going to get the rest of it. Tyson Wilson Davis, if you want. And if anybody wants any information, email me, gberman@juilliard.edu, and I will send you whatever you need. I think we got kicked off. Okay. No. Thank you.
Okay, so next we have.
Great job.